G'day and welcome to the channel. I'm just laughing to myself because it's the fourth time I've tried to do this. My beer's starting to lose its head. G'day. I'm starting to lose my head, but I just thought we'd do a quick wrap up of the year. Things I've missed. I mean, I've missed a lot of videos that I'm supposed to have put out, and they're still there in the wings, and I've just been really busy, and I suppose we'll start there. It's been a bit of a funny year for me, being in hospital twice, operation on my stomach, operation on my back. They sort of put me out of action for 6 weeks, the first one. The second one was 2 or 3 weeks where I haven't been able to lift anything. So it's been a bit tough in the brewery here, or any brewery, to really do much. So I've just sort of been taking care of myself, which you have to sometimes. I did reach a milestone with the channel, I guess, which I only just found out because I had a look. Once you've been YouTubing for a while, and it's a tip for beginner YouTubers, don't watch your numbers. You don't look at your numbers, it drives you insane. It's always you'll think that your best video is going to be your worst and your worst video is going to be your best. Anyway, over 6 million views on my channel this year. 6.1 million we're at the moment, and that is huge. I'm just a bloke in a shed. That is huge. I don't have sponsors. I can't pay for advertising. We'll get to that a bit later. It's just me doing this. That is all I do. Thank you very much for watching the videos. Please subscribe. 6 million views and 33,000 subscribers. I'd really love to get to that old 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, but I think I'll be dead before then. So it's been a bit of a crazy year. So the ups and downs. You know, 6 million is a lot of views. Think of it in MCGs, which is a sporting ground here. You know, that holds 100,000. Everyone thinks that's huge. Well, I've just filled 61 MCGs. That's crazy when you think about it like that. Absolutely crazy. If they'd all only paid $1. And I get that. That's one of the first questions I get asked. I have briefly, I did it in the interview on that. I can put some stats up on the screen. It's only about $200 to $300 I get a month from YouTube, and it's my patrons. I say it again and again, my patrons keep me going. And that's just the facts. Without them, it's barely, you know, I love doing this. You have to do it out of love. That's another tip for upcoming YouTubers. You can't, especially in Australia, homebrewing just isn't a big thing on YouTube, especially if you can't afford advertising and things. Pick another hobby, pick one of your others, because you'll do much better barbecuing or anything. I did write a list. Oh, and getting onto that, people say, well, what do you do then if you don't make enough money for this? Well, as I said, the patrons help me out. That is more than what YouTube give me, and that helps. But I've talked about this before, but we'll briefly go through it. I did my trade back in 1988, 4 years, and then I was supposed to go on. That was a technical officer, orthotics technician, kind of like a hospital tradesman doctor thing. I did 4 years there, and then for the last 6 years of that was university in Melbourne. They didn't tell me that at the start, and I didn't want to move to Melbourne, so I quit. And I'd always played in rock bands. Got asked 2 years later. I got asked to come down to Melbourne, join a rock band, and I've been stuck here ever since. So I played professionally in bands for semi-professionally, or there's no money in it, for about 15 years, I think it was. Then I just had to stop. It was too much. I was in all sorts of different bands and pubs and rehearsal rooms every night. And it was just getting a bit much. So I stopped that. I actually ended up on the disability support pension, which is really hard to get on. It's no mean feat. But my body's stuffed from being born with a severely clubbed foot, and so my back's stuffed. And then with the issues from being in bands for 15 years and being sort of not so much on the road, but more or less like on the road, with alcohol and things like that, I was on the disability support pension. So, and then I got married, silly enough, a few years later, thinking I'd be able to go back to work, because you'll lose the pension. When I got married, my wife earned just a little bit more than she was supposed to, which isn't very much if you know the figures. I can't remember. This was probably 2011 or something like that. No, actually it was longer, 2003 that was. And so I lived off some money off the wife for about 6 months and I couldn't handle it. So I just went and got a job, and of course you don't tell them about being on the disability pension. And so I laboured in events companies, flying around the country doing V8s and sporting events and all that sort of thing for about 6 years, I think it was. And that just totally ruined my body. Like, I shouldn't have been doing the work. But Melbourne Cups, it was good. It was like being in the band again, but we weren't playing. Well, we were doing gigs, but with a bunch of very different people. Seeing a lot of bands, we did all the big day outs and things like that as well. And then we had kids, and that was 13 years ago. And I couldn't keep doing that because I was away from home, and plus my body was stuffed, and I'd had enough of it. And so I became a stay-at-home dad. And I'd been doing YouTube since 2007. I'm not sure if I deleted a lot of the videos later. Oh, you might be able to dig back. You probably shouldn't. Yeah, and so when I was a stay-at-home dad here for the 12 years, that's when I've sort of started doing YouTube videos. All right, that's that story. And so even now, trying to get back into the workforce, now my kids are older, it's extremely hard. One, my body is stuffed. And two, with my apparent, when you writing out a CV or a resume, being a professional musician for 15 years, being a stay-at-home dad for 13 years, even though I have a trade and a lot of knowledge and stuff, it doesn't work very well. And it's not helping at the moment that all the breweries are closing down. So there's, mates are helping out mates, and there's not that many newbies getting in unless you're just a bar person or whatever, which would be fine actually, but... So what I do is I started this video and I forgot I still had my uniform on. I volunteer at the Werribee Zoo as a host. So I do that once a week, once a fortnight. And that sort of gets me out of the house. I've still got to look after the kids that nearly just opened the door, excuse me. And but it gets me out of the house and keeps me a little bit active. I'm stuffed after doing it today. So that's what I do. I volunteer at the zoo. You can come and get a tour by me, a free tour. If I happen to be there on the day you visit Werribee Zoo. If you're at the Werribee Zoo and you see me, come up and say good day. I was there today. What did we do today? I saw the baby rhino and its mum play in the mud. Hung out with some emus. What else? What else? There was something else today. Oh, saw the lion cubs that are now, I don't know, about 15 months old. Eat some rabbits this morning, munchity crunchity. So that's it. That's what I do. As I said, I don't make much money from this at all. No, nowhere near enough to even pay the rent. We are renting here. So it's always, people always ask me, why don't I have a barrel program? Why don't I plumb things in? And because we're renting, and you never know, one day they're just going to go bang, you got to move, so... That's just like that. I don't think we'll ever have a house, but that's another story. Well, that bit went for way too long. That bit went for way too long. That's just for letting people know that didn't know. Oh, this beer here, I haven't mentioned the beer. This beer happens to be the Honey Poppa beer. Because I don't know, I don't think I've just got used to it. I haven't had one for probably 2 weeks. And I don't know if it's just because it's a hot day. As I said, the head retention isn't good, but we expected that before we brewed it. That was expected because of the fats in the in cereal when it's baked and stuff. It's going down all right today after a hot day at the zoo, let me tell you. The other thing I've been doing this year, you will notice this video, it looks a bit choppy because I've recorded it all in one go, but I'm going to sort of mix up the order to try and make it a little bit more interesting. Is gone back to beer school, proper beer school, full time. I started in July. Now back in 2000, just before I was giving up work for the events company, the wife said you should go and follow your brewing dreams, because I've been brewing for 36 years now. And now, back then, whatever it was back then, and I said, yeah, okay. And so we looked into it. And back then, the TAFEs had just stopped, TAFEs, technical schools, whatever you want to call them, had just stopped a brewing course. And so I'm going to get these years a year or two wrong, but it was something like 2008, 2009, and they stopped it. But the teacher went out and did it privately. And I went to his first private school, Vince Constanzo. Now, a lot of people have gone and done his course since then, since I did it, but it's changed a lot. The first year I did it, it was virtually the tech course, a little bit condensed, but I went for maybe 12 weeks or something, 8 or 12 weeks. We did the theory, we brewed beer, tasted it, did the off flavors, did all that, everything you do at brew school. And so that, as I said, that was around 2009, maybe, something like that. Now, then I did the Science of Brewing course that was based in Europe, probably 5 or 6 years ago. Again, I can't remember the exact dates. And then I had an opportunity this year to do, the TAFE had started up the brewing courses again because brewing had got popular. And so I had the opportunity to join that full-time in July. So I did. And we've done, 6 months of it. And we're up to packaging, I think. We've done all the brewing and, OH&S and you do all other stuff because it's, if you want to go and start your own brewery, so you do a lot of the legal stuff and the food standards and the food safety, all that sort of stuff. But in the brewing wise, we've gone through yeast propagation, counting, all that sort of stuff, and ingredient selection, all that, everything like that. We've gone through the ferment, the maturation, and CIP. Now, I'm just going to mention this now because a video just came out yesterday or the day before about, hacking on my CIP video. Now, the funny thing is, all I'm going to say is I just finished for the third time being trained in CIP and exactly what you should and shouldn't do. And then, a week later, someone brings out a video on CIP in their basement or wherever it is and says that it's wrong. Each to their own, right? I had to tell the dangers because they're true. And these things make you laugh sometimes. Anyway. The other thing I'll mention about that, they carried on, one of the things they kept carrying on about was that sponge I used, which is just a household kitchen sponge. And we used to cop that back in the old days from the Americans because they hated, they never really used plastic, right? They may have used a plastic bottling bucket, but they didn't have plastic fermenters. But we've used plastic fermenters here in Australia for since I started brewing. There was always plastic fermenters. And you always heard people say, don't scratch them, bacteria harbours in them. And I can honestly say I've never had one infection. Well, I'll say infection that's noticeable. Everyone's had some sort of infection that you just probably haven't noticed. And I've always used some form of kitchen sponge scourer, even on my plastic fermenters, and still do to this day. We used to drill our taps, holes for our taps in plastic fermenters. There's gouges and scratches, and sanding it's probably worse, making more gouges. If you look, in joins of even things like the Firmzilla or your Fermentosaurus or whatever, around the parts and stuff, right? It's all about knowing how to clean and knowing how to sanitize. So this was only happened yesterday, last night. Anyway. So yeah, I've only got a couple of months, it's 6 months more of school, but there's a bit of placement, which I'll have to do. But I'm doing it more because I am going to start. I've been asked for many, many years to do like private training, and that's where I'm aiming at. And for the people that don't watch YouTube, at least now, because when I did the private brewing course, even though it was this brewing course again I'm doing now, there was no certificate, no recognised, registrable, whatever certificate. And the one I did in Europe is, even though it's digital, it's on my LinkedIn and all that, it's not a hugely known thing, but it's way more in depth than any of the other brewing courses that I've ever seen. Way more in depth than the ones we do in Australia. Way more in depth than the British one, is it? The one that a lot of people do, the other international one. This was down to the molecular level. It was really, really heavy stuff of everything molecular, like your hops, your malts, it was crazy. But I passed. Yay. So the main reason of this video was talk about videos that I have done that haven't made it up, or for no reason except that I haven't got round to it. One of the other things I didn't do videos about was I was asked to be a judge at the Crushies, but they don't seem to be called the Crushies anymore. I'm pretty sure this is the same thing. They are now called the Craft Beer Marketing Awards, and it's a worldwide marketing award for breweries and, you know, can art, brewery art or advertising material, all that sort of thing. And I was kindly asked to be a judge. Now, there's a lot of judges, and I can show you on the screen. So that was one thing that I was going to promote on my channel, but because there was, I don't know, I just didn't fall into line. I think it was during my operation that I judged the cans, and so I couldn't do much else, and I didn't feel like doing videos at the time. There was brewers from all around the world. It was massive, huge. Anybody that was anybody was asked to be a judge, I think. No head on the... I'll show you a trick. Did you know this trick? It's photographers use it. And they use wood, although you're supposed to use a skewer, not a toothpick. And this is so warm out here. I was going to open it up and it puts a head on it. It's not just the stirring, it nucleates from the wood. Oh, this has gone flat, this beer. I was going to do this video outside. It's been 35 degrees. This becomes like a sweat box, like 40, 50, it does. Seriously, this is a sweat box, this shed. And I opened up the door and the cool breeze, not cool, it's probably down to 28 or something. And the bushfire smoke from the Grampians is blown over and it looks horrible. I can probably put a bit of footage. It's just horrible. So I had to shut the door and go back to the old school desk. Answer another question. Because the pay was always the question, how much do you get paid? I'll briefly touch on that payment thing again. A lot of the other, especially the American channels, are much, because they weren't going, of course, when we all started. But the channels with shops involved can afford advertising and editors and that, because it's all tax deductible. So they're going to pay, you know, advertising, you get heaps more views, sponsorship, you know, ingredients, people to help you, all that sort of thing. So if you can do that, that's great. But I'm in no position to pay for advertising. It's even a Facebook ad for a Facebook group the other day. I looked and, you know, you can pay $10 for a week or something, and they predict 200 people might see it or something. It's ridiculous, and put that tenfold because they know when advertising companies or businesses know that you can claim it as a tax deduction on your business or a business expense, whoever wants to call it whatever, of course, they can charge through the roof. I still have not done one paid video ever. I haven't been sponsored. I haven't done a scripted video. I still don't do scripted videos. I probably should, because some people should get better scripting devices. Why don't you post many recipes? Simply because recipes are a dime a dozen. They are... The recipes, I've got a library of books in there. I've read about brewing before the internet. I bought books, every book I could find about brewing, right? They're all full of recipes. I've got about 10, 12, I don't even know how long more. I was buying them before we moved here. Probably 15, 20 years of brewing magazines, BYO, Zymergy, whenever they started, BYO, literally hundreds. Full of recipes. I've bought special books. I've bought IPA recipe books. I've bought I know every beginner brewer goes through that stage of this is going to be a magical recipe that no one's ever done, but someone's probably done it before. It's all in your brewing style, right? And everyone starts by throwing a ton of ingredients in, and then you all end up backing off and going, all right, and especially if you're ever thinking of going commercial. Or if you've ever tried to get your beer brewed, or you've won a competition and go and get it brewed commercially, most of the time they're going to cut back your ingredients a lot. Nobody wants in a brewery bits and pieces of grain around, and that's what most of my recipes you'll see are pretty rounded off. And it's for the same reason. It's just common, like, you know, a kilo, 2 kilos of this, a couple of 100 grams of this, because you don't want to be measuring out, you know, 23 grams and stuff like that. And if you do scale it up to go commercial, you'll do it in sacks most of the time, more than, you know, oh, we need to weigh out a little bit of this. So recipes really are a dime a dozen, unless you've got some, I don't know, I can't even think of a reason. And that's one of the reasons I do the brewery series videos. And even then, you know, you talk to between the two breweries and you'll have this IPA from this brewery, from this, both great IPAs, taste different, both have the same hops, and the grain bills only, you know, they might use them at slightly different times. But, you know, that's the skill's in the brewing rather than the recipe. Of course, you have your outliers. Be really, really careful. People keep coming on about it, about AI and ChatGPT and all that stuff about building recipes. You need to be really careful if you're going to trust that, especially as a beginner brewer. There's no point doing it, to be honest, because if you can't look at that recipe yourself without that skill of judging, then you could possibly end up with a great beer. And I've seen the tests and that they've done. I did one. I did an AI beer ages ago. But again, I had to massage it. Right? It gave me a recipe. I said, no way. There's way too much. I think it was crystal malt or something in it. I said, do the recipe again without crystal malt. Blah, blah, blah. And then do the recipe. And then I got a half-decent recipe. That's why I don't do a lot of recipes. But if anyone needs a hand, yell out. Recipes are super simple. I think that's enough. I did have abstracts. Oh, there's one more, which I have recorded a video on, but I'm not sure I'm going to get a chance to edit it before Christmas, so we'll do it now. I'll be back in a sec. All right, this beer. This is, because I was just asked this question again today, did I do a tasting? Oh, I always call it Newcastle Brewing Company, but it's not. It's Neighbourhood Brewing Company. The first walk kit I did. The hazy pale it was. Now, I'm going to be honest here, it has cleared now. It wasn't quite this clear when I did the test, the proper tasting test. It is actually crystal clear, if I can get near the... But I did muck up with this. There's a fridge over there, which reminds me, it's on 11 degrees now. I did it again yesterday. When I record videos out here, my fridge is quite loud. It has a fan in it. When it kicks up, you hear the fan going. When I'm recording videos, I turn the fan off. Or I do what I did the other day. It's actually not turned off. I just turn the temperature up in the fridge. Oh, I was on before, I think. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that. It just started then. That is a pure coincidence. That's hilarious. It's set to 11 degrees, but it is hot in here today. And what happened was, it was hazy before that. And then I forgot about it, and I come back the next day and went, oh no, it was probably only at 15, 18 or something, where it had been down to, 1 or 2 cold crashing. In the keg. I don't remember kegged. And then from then on, it was clear. So I don't know if being warm for that day, or might have been 2 days, and then chilling it again made it go clear, but it went clear. Oh, but it's a tasty, tasty beer. And first walk kits, like No Chill, is an awesome way to make beer. I even saw another guy the other day say extract's better than first walk kits, and I just don't, that's just impossible. Of course, you might make the odd beer, but look at this. I don't know if you can see. I've hardly even swallowed that, and I don't mean to swallow. Oh, you're not going to see. It's got one of those sort of ice cream cone heads in it, and this isn't etched either. It's got a really fluffy head. Oh, I don't really have time to edit these videos, but It's like the head in the middle's making itself. And what I like about it, one, there's a ton of hop flavour. A ton. More than I expected. Is that there's again, it's bitter enough for me. Even though it's a hazy pale. It's not the hazy anymore, but sometimes I get scared about the hazies because they've got to have a little bit of bitterness to stand up, right? Especially when they're aged. This is a month or a couple of months old now. If you start flabby, or at the start, and when I mean flabby without bitterness and you've just got the fruitiness, they just don't age well. Even if you've limited oxidation, as the hops are still going to drop off. And if you don't have any bitterness there and you're relying on residual bitterness, sometimes it doesn't stand up. And I don't know how they brew this beer. It's the bitterness is standing up to enough to make it still a nice drinking beer. And as you can see, the head's there. I've hardly had to, like, I'm forcing myself not to swirl it. Everyone knows I'm a beer swirler because it helps warm it up quickly in a video. Yeah, the aroma's dropped off a little. It's still there though, and the taste is just great. I haven't used that yeast. I think this was the hothead. Mangrove Jack's hothead, because I just have never seen it in a shop. The only shops I've seen it in have been little dodgy ones, but I haven't been into those dodgy shops for about 10 years. It's one of the reasons I never bought it. And because all my other major brewing shops, Grain and Grape and Kegland, and they never, not that I ever noticed them having Mangrove Jack yeast for no other reason. I don't think there's a reason for that. But that's a nice beer, and I'm sorry for not putting the tasting video out. It's just been lost in the ether, especially this month. That was one of the videos that was going to come out this month. But things have just gone crazy. I shouldn't have done the Kanban calendar. It's been fun, but that's taken a hell of a lot of time, As I said, I'm at school full time. I look after the kids, volunteer at the zoo. It's been crazy times. Plus I'm still healing. My back's still healing from they don't take the stitches out these days. They're internal, but yeah, it's still, you don't want to know. It's still healing. All right, so that's about it. I did have other things on the list, but I've talked way too long, and I don't have time to do much editing. As you know, Christmas, I've got little girls, 9 and 13, so they're still Christmassy. You know what I mean? And we have to travel and see family. So, yeah, I thought I'd do this. I thought it'd be a lot shorter, but it is what it is. If you are thinking about doing a brewing course, the Kangan Institute, where I'm doing this one at, which is based in Broadmeadows, and Bendigo run it. Most of it is online these days, and that's just a fallout from the cough. But Bendigo now, and I was there the other day for the opening, have a brand new full brewery. I can probably put a little bit of footage on. I will be talking more about that next year and probably give them a bit of a help with their marketing, because they're the first tech, I believe, in Australia to have a full brew system in there. I mean, you've always had Ballarat University, but that's a different kettle of fish. But this is the first tech in Australia, I believe, to have a full, and they have everything from a canning line or a small canning line, keg washers, huge glycol system, fully automated brewery, bright tanks, mash tuns, lauter kettle, boil kettle, fermenters, everything, right? They have the full setup there. So if you're in the area, although most of the people that are doing it are from all over Victoria, so when there's prac days, it's a bit of a travel. But I think that will change next year because now they've got this brewery. I think so. I'll be doing some time there next year, and I'll probably hit up a few of my mates for some time. That's what I was going to say. I warned you this video will be out of order. One of the great things about this year was the GABS Festival, which is the Great Australian Beer Spectacular, which is probably started in 2010-ish, again, 2009, 2010, whatever. And This year was really, really interesting for me. Like every year I go there, and usually I'm wandering around, and there'll be one or two of the breweries that will go, wow, I started my brewery, or you're a big influence in me starting brewing and wanting to start a brewery. This year at GABS was crazy. There must have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, half a dozen, without exaggerating, maybe more people that had stalls at GABS, and all said, well, nearly that exact same story. And that's really awesome. That's why you do these things. I'd love to do it for money, but that's why you do these things. And I still haven't had a chance. A couple of them were from Tasmania, a couple from the other side of town, and I haven't got there yet. But I've had a few issues, as we've talked about. But I will get to them, and eventually. And it's just was a really, really awesome thing this year. That was really uplifting. I was messy by the day 3. I can't really do much, as I talked about my body or whatever. Has that been yet? But that was a 3-day event. Next year it's only 2 days. So the beer's the only thing that keeps me going. I can't work at the zoo for 2 or 3 days in a row. I'd be in a heap on the floor. But it must be a muscle relaxant or a whatever that keeps you going. But I wanted to mention that because that was really sensational, and I can't remember all the breweries' names. I wish I could. There was I shouldn't embarrass them anyway. I shouldn't embarrass them. They might not want to know. Oh, and that's what I should say. What the really good things were this year? One was being involved with the AIBAs, which everyone was probably sick of hearing about, but going and brewing at Mountain Goat and with the Deeds and Moffat and Mountain Goat. Oh no, there's one more. Deeds, Moffat, Mountain Goat. Oh, that's terrible. That was really great. That was really great. And just last month being asked to another brewery opening, who again, the people started brewing and learning a lot from watching my videos. Elwood Brewing Company, and they released their beer, which I have an empty here somewhere. Oh, it's over there. But I'll probably do a video about that again soon. Things that happened this year. Oh, what we haven't done is the wine tasting. This is actually from 2 years ago. I have done 2 wine tastings. They just haven't made it to YouTube. I think I did one on a live stream, and I recorded another one, and I don't know where that footage is. It's somewhere. So let's see if I can open it. I think... And these bottles were laid down, but I stood them up a few months ago. I can't remember how long ago, and they've been standing up ever since, so I don't know how that cork's going to be. It's probably going to break. The last one. Well, we might be lucky. This was the Australian Cab Sav from that video I did, 2 years ago by the looks of it. Oh, that's all right. Come out in one piece. Look, my dad is a wine connoisseur, he calls himself. Oh, I had a glass. Where is it? One of these will do. I did have a different wine glass, but this will do. And I took up, last year, I took up 2 bottles for him. I said, put one away and we'll share one. And he goes, oh, it's going to be oxidised. It's going to be horrible. I went, well, I don't know, Dad. And so we opened it, and he was quite surprised. I probably should have let this air a bit, but he was quite surprised. And I was surprised, and I didn't know whether he was just pulling my leg. And then I spoke to him a couple of days later, and he's going, I'll finish that, because he took the rest of the bottle home. He goes, I'll finish that bottle off, it was all right. And then so I said, all right, put that other bottle away, just for a little bit longer, see what happens. And he goes, oh, I've drank it already. And it's not that he doesn't drink that much anymore, but he liked it. And look, to me, it's not the best wine ever, of course, and you wouldn't expect it to be. It's got the veins, you probably can't see. It's okay. As I said, it's not the best wine in the world. And I think some of them, I had a bottle a few months back that did taste a bit oxidised in a bad way. Yeah, and you wouldn't be paying top dollar for this stuff. Let's face it. It's home brew wine, right? But it is just grape juice, fermented, bottled. So it's really, a lot of it's up to your skills of, how careful you do the bottling and all that sort of thing. Look, that's okay. I think I should have aged it on the wood chips longer. I don't remember how much. There is a video about it. But anyway, there's the tasting of the wine. That's about all I'm going to do. If I do find the other videos, I'll upload it eventually. But that's the Cab Sav winemaking video I did ages ago. I haven't done another one because I don't drink much wine. I've still got probably, I don't know, slab and a half of this. A slab and a half, I don't know. 2 dozen bottles of this probably. Might be a little less. So much for this being a short video. Everybody have a safe and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And hope you all, say it's about the safety and just looking after yourselves, eh? And your family, and just enjoy being with family and friends. For me, it really hurts. We're down here with, I have a few friends. I don't get to see them very much, maybe once every 6 months or something. And all my family's a long way away. So I really look forward to these times. And one day when I win the lotto, I'm going to move back home and be near the family before they all die. Take it easy. Much love to you. Thank you very much for the support. And don't take it too seriously, eh? Cheers. Usually, there's often I mix the beers together when I finish these things. Oh, I'll chuck that one in this and chuck that one. But now I'm not chucking the red wine in the beer. Oh, this is aired a bit now. Look, that's okay. It's a bit sweet, and it needs more oak. And I do think, again, like people say, age is better, age is better. Age isn't better for anything unless it is. So you test these things along the way. 1 month, 2 months, or it depends how much you got. You might wait 3 months, 6 months. And if it's tasting good then, it's probably time to hook in. They don't always last forever. Especially when you've made it in your house and it might be your first time bottling and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't necessarily, it's not going to get better and better and better. It's the same with your beer, right? Beer's probably got to, any beer's not going to get much better after 12 months. There's some exceptions, but the alcohol's got to be huge to be that. Otherwise, the beers they don't. Huge alcohol ones, age, mellow, but again, unless you were super, super careful, they're going to get caramelly. But a lot of people love the caramelly thing, the Belgian thing. Shut up, take it easy. I'll see you next year. Much love.